In a world of ordinary fantasy football podcasts, ordinary guys rise up to bring you extraordinary analysis and entertainment. This is the Falafel House Fantasy Football Podcast with your hosts Kevin Cotillo, Sal Lito, and Stephen Marcus.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Today is Monday, January 16th, and welcome to the show. I am your host, Kevin Cotillo. I got Steve Marcus with me. What's going on, Steve?
Oh, not a whole lot. Thanks for having me. Thanks for inviting me back. It's good to be here.
So the babysitter came through tonight, huh? No big timing you?
That's right. She must have felt very sorry for me and pitied me for showing me up last week and not allowing me to be on the podcast. So yeah, she showed up, and here I am.
Are you sure that's
much
why
to you guys' chagrin?
Are you sure that's why she felt sorry for you?
She probably needed some money.
Nice. Steve, Sal is here too. Just make sure you say hi to Sal.
Just over here in stunned disbelief.
Disbelief?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Steve, did you not notice something at the top of the show?
Nope.
What did
I didn't.
Did I get the date right?
Well, sorry for the date right.
Yeah. Hey, listen.
One take so far. This is pretty good.
This is good. You guys want to start with two? I can mess something up right now if you want. I can do that.
We're in too deep at this point.
Yeah.
We'll figure you got that about 20 minutes from now. You'll take care of that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it's a staple. Yours is more.
Did you?
You were usually about halfway through the show, Sal, when you make a mistake. So.
Yeah, I'm like a stuttering prick. Steve, get the on that.
Nice. So we had some football games this weekend, guys. It was a lot of fun, actually. These games were much better and much more entertaining than the week before.
Yes, they didn't start out so much like that. We had the Saturday games that turned out, to be a little more lopsided, but geez, Sunday made up for all of the previous games that we've seen so far. It was a lot of fun this weekend. It is the reason that we love football.
Agreed. So before we get started and getting into those games, obviously we want to tell you that you can follow the show on Twitter at Falafel House. You can follow me on Twitter at Wally Central. You can follow Steve at Sitskeet, and you can follow Sal at Lito Sal. Sal, what'd you think of this weekend? A little better?
Yeah,
you didn't watch,
Sunday,
did you? You took the weekend off.
I actually got to watch all four games this weekend. There was no snow hindering me from doing that, and since I had no real skin in the game with my Raiders being eliminated last week, I just watched as a football fan and enjoyed specifically Sunday, which when we get into it, and if you're out there and you're a football fan, that was one of the better divisional Sundays on record. And I'm an old man, as they like to point out. In my 42 years on Earth, that was one of the better divisional Sundays I have ever seen.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. Actually, it was a very entertaining Sunday. You certainly can't ask for much more during the playoffs. We had a lot of fun in the Falafel House chat on the Fantasy Life app. As those of you who listen to the show regularly know, that's where we met, it's where we came from, where the show spawned from. And we're always there on Sundays trying to check in with each other and just sort of watch the games with each other. It was a good time. A lot of stuff cranking on there during the games. A lot of comments.
A lot of traffic. I mean, we were bogging the app down multiple times that it was just to the point where I almost couldn't use it. Everyone was in there talking, commenting on the football, and so it was insane. Like you said, a lot of fun. Always the best times are in there during game day, and it's where I like to be to talk about football because there's so many different comments. It's funny. It's just all kinds of stuff going on in there.
I wrote an article a while back as everybody remembers. It was describing the falafel chat on the Fantasy Life app. The app creators, Mark and Charlie, had asked one of us if we would do that. So I naturally, very humbly took the role. And one of the things I wrote in that article was that being in falafel chat on a football Sunday or on a Saturday, for that matter, if that's when the games are, it's like being at a stadium or being at the bar with your friends and just tons of people and everybody's jumping in. And you could really feel the excitement, the highs, the lows, the intensity, the pressure, the stress, the sadness from everybody in there. It's amazing how it's conveyed and how it comes across. I tell you again, if you have not been in there, hanging out for one of those days. It's amazing. Even from the Basement Sports Report, Zick jumped in there this weekend. I hung out with for a little bit. So thanks for coming out.
Yeah, definitely. Those guys are great. So check out that podcast as well, Basement Sports Report. Those guys are cool. Except for the fact that they lost to Brandon. I still can't get over that. But
twice.
But he won week 17 and finished the season beating Brandon. So currently he put Brandon back where he belongs.
Well, that's good. All right, so let's jump into these games. We're going to start with the Seahawks and the Falcons game. This was a Saturday afternoon game. I watched this from the parking lot, so I'm going to let you guys do more of the talking on this one than me. But the Falcons win this one 36-20. It looked up, based on what I saw, that the Falcons really didn't struggle in this at all. They kind of had the game in hand. Obviously, Seattle gets up first, but by the second quarter, Atlanta really started to turn on the offense, and I don't think they ever really looked back. Steve, what did you see?
Yeah, I feel the same way. It started out with Seattle going up 7. They scored a first touchdown, and they looked really good on that opening drive. But then Atlanta got the ball, and they just drove down the field, and they answered back. And then once they took the lead, like you said, they kind of just put their foot down, and they didn't allow Seattle to get back into the game. Devin Hester tried as hard as he could to make this a revenge game. He was killing Atlanta on their punt returns and their kick returns, but every time he busted a big play, got called back on a penalty. So that was very demoralizing for them. And their offense just did not show up, much like it had all season long. Seattle just could not get anything going. They couldn't get their run game going. They couldn't get Russell Wilson comfortable behind that offensive line. So they're just all their flaws seemed to show when they were playing against this great Atlanta team who played most of their game without Julio Jones on the field. It came out that he re-aggravated that toe sprain. So to see Atlanta be able to put up that many points on a Seattle defense, which has not been the same, it's been well talked about since Earl Thomas has been gone, it was just pretty amazing. So looking at Atlanta going forward, it's hard to imagine what kind of team will be able to stop them, and that is including if they get into the Super Bowl. So just very impressed by Atlanta all around. And not very surprised. We all had Atlanta winning this game, so not very surprised that Seattle lost this one.
Man, I have so much I want to say to all the things that you said.
We'll get started.
I mean, it is, like, it is a podcast. Talking is generally, a good thing.
I think the big thing you left out is that this game pretty much turned when Russell Wilson got stepped on and fell backwards into the end zone.
Yep.
Because if you remember, that came off of a big kick return for Devin Hester, and there was a penalty. So that kick return brought them all the way back to the Falcons side of the field, and it was brought all the way back to within their own 7-yard line, and he got stepped on, fell backwards into the end zone, and that was the point where I believe Seattle never recovered from. You pointed out something about Earl Thomas. I remember you saying something a while back, and somebody not agreeing with you.
Oh, that's
Earl
right.
Thomas.
I remember that. Mr. Kevin Cotillo, you seem to think that the loss of Earl Thomas was not going to be a huge deal for the Seattle defense, and that has absolutely not been the case. They've been atrocious since he's been gone.
Really doesn't sound like something I would say.
I don't know.
I will be going back and scooting out the tape of that.
No, I mean, I'm sure I said that. Look, I thought that this defense, it's for the last few years, it's been one of the deepest defensive teams in the league. I know how good Earl Thomas is. Obviously he's one of the best safeties, if not the best safeties in the game. I understand that completely. I guess what I thought was someone else would pick up the slack, and I thought that this defense was good enough to handle it. Clearly, though, Sal, for arguing with me, you were correct because they do not look the same at all. They just do not have it. Now, having said that, this was an Atlanta team that was historically good on offense this year, so. What were they? 6th highest scoring team in history. They, what did we say last week, Sal? They outscored the next highest scoring team this year by 70 points. I mean,
70 points. Yep.
Yeah, this is a team that knows how to throw up the points. So, while Seattle hasn't looked as good since Thomas went down, I don't think they were stopping the Falcons with Thomas. So.
Yep, I would agree with that. Their offense seemed to be clicking to the point where, much like with Green Bay, It just doesn't seem like they were going to be able to be stopped. But since we're talking about Earl Thomas, Kev, I'd like to get your thoughts on his comments. I believe it was about Tom Brady and how they have just such an easy road into the playoffs. And if they were in the NFC West with the Rams and the 49ers, that it might be a little more difficult for them.
Yeah, I was listening to sports radio here this morning, and it was an interview with Tom Brady. He does his weekly show. And they asked him about that, and he kind of brushed it off and said, "Hey, Earl's a great player. He's one of the best in the league. I respect him a lot." Because that's Tom Brady. That's what he does. He's basically like Belichick in that he doesn't give any sound bites. So, but I'm thinking as I'm listening to them read what Thomas said and thinking, yeah, you play the Rams and the Rams and the 49ers twice. That's 4 of your games, and we have an easy road to the Super Bowl. Look, there's no arguing that the Patriots had an easier schedule. I think statistically came out to be one of the easiest in the league, right? If not the easiest. So I get that, but you know what? The Patriots also won 14 games where the Seahawks only won 10, and they've taken care of business when they need to. So I think it's a joke that someone would come out and say that.
Listen, Tom Brady has won 24 NFL playoff games out of 32 starts. Earl, most of those weren't against the AFC East.
It's ridiculous, and you can only play the teams they put in front of you, right? You can't. There's nothing you can do about your schedule except play those teams. And to win 14 games now 15 games, I mean it's hard to win in the NFL as we've all seen. So I think it's a stupid comment by him, and hopefully he learns the error of his ways and corrects it at some point because dumb comments. You play the Rams twice. Come on. 49ers. Come on. Sorry.
Some salty players this weekend. Sorry, go ahead, Sal.
No, that's all right. So to continue on, I mean, you discussed a lot about Julio. Listen, Julio Jones is a phenomenal player. When he was out there, he was showing his abilities, and he was doing it on Richard Sherman. This has become a really bad nagging issue to the point where I'm not going to keep Julio next year in Falafel. He was my keeper this past year, first-round pick. But at the first-round value, he's obviously still worth that if you're going to draft him. But I have other guys, to me, that are more valuable, that I feel are more reliable to show up each week. I know that if Julio's there and he's healthy, there's maybe a player or two in this league that are better than him, if even, in the complete package. But I don't know that the Falcons need him. I mean, the Falcons have weapons, and they're using everyone. And that's why I've argued that Matt Ryan should and will be the MVP of the league this year, because he is locked into this offense. This is more about him and Shanahan and how they've come together. And they are working like a well-oiled machine, similar to how that Rams team worked that they came close to outscoring. Similar to, for me, the Raiders team when Rich Gannon was in there. Rich Gannon was a journeyman quarterback, never really successful. But him and Gruden were so locked in for a 2 to 3 year period. That offense was like a machine, and that's what I see here in Atlanta. I don't see them losing this upcoming week. Not that we've discussed that yet, but I've had them going to the Super Bowl since the playoffs started, and I'm going to hold true to that because I just think that they're the more dominant team right now.
So do
you think losing? Sorry, Kev. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say you're going to tell me that a guy that put up 1,400 yards and 6 touchdowns in 14 games is droppable for you in a keeper league because you think the value at a first-round pick is not good enough.
No, I didn't say he wasn't worth a first-round pick. What I said was I have other players that hold a substantially better value. I could drop Julio Jones and possibly redraft him in our format.
I got you. You're just talking about compared to your other keepers. All right. I thought you were saying he was not worth a first-round keeper. Sorry.
No, you missed what I said. Absolutely. No, Julio Jones is a top 3 fantasy wide receiver. Maybe he drops down a little bit with Mike Evans' ascension this year, but he's not reliable. Like I believe I got knocked out of the playoffs this year almost solely on him missing that week. The void left in my lineup by not having him there, and it happens too often with him. He's second to none if he's on the field, but he's not always on the field.
So I was going to say, do you think the impending loss of Kyle Shanahan is going to affect his production any bit going forward?
Matt Ryan or Julio Jones?
Julio Jones.
No, Julio Jones has done it, I believe, under whoever's been there. Matt Ryan to me is the person that, I mentioned it earlier in the year. Does he turn back into a pumpkin, so to speak? Because right now he's like Cinderella. He's the belle of the ball. He's just getting the praise from everywhere, and he really had a phenomenal and MVP-worthy season. So I do worry, does Matt Ryan, is he able to repeat that or at least come close to it? But the other weapons, guys, like this is, Devonta Freeman has done it 2 years in a row now. Julio Jones is just who he is if he's healthy. So I don't worry about Julio, but I worry about Matt.
So I get what you guys are saying. Obviously when the coordinator, Shanahan's done a great job. I think it's entirely possible and probably probable that Shanahan will be succeeded on that team with a guy who's currently working with Shanahan. I think they're going to try and do everything they can to keep it consistent, keep it, status quo because of what they were able to do this year. And if that's the case, I really think they're probably going to be fine. I mean, Shanahan's a great coach, offensive coordinator. We'll see what happens when he becomes a head coach, but I think they're going to be fine. I don't expect the offense to change much. You're still going to have the same head coach. You're still going to have a lot of the same offensive pieces and weapons, so they're going to run a similar offensive system, and I'm not that worried about it.
I don't think it changes drastically, Kevin, of course.
No. Yeah.
Speaking of that Raiders team, the year that Gruden left, they went to the Super Bowl. They happened to meet Gruden, and that's a story for another time. But the offense was still one of the best. It was the best offense in the league still the year after John Gruden left. But with different guys, even if it's a successor of a person who's working underneath them, they always have something that they thought they could do differently or something they could do better. Sure. Or maybe they're not as respected as the guy who left there, and the players themselves don't necessarily do things the same. So it could change things. I don't think that have to be worried about drafting Falcons players next year at their value. I think they'll be as valuable. But, the one person I worry about coming close to repeating is Matt Ryan, because he has had consistency issues in the past. We know he came in as Rookie of the Year, and then he had a few, average to slightly above average years after that. And this was the first one where he took a leap up into the elite for this season. Does he stay there?
Yeah, I mean, he had this is an interesting stat because I just find that this is an amazing jump, and this is why I think what you're talking about, Sal, makes sense, right? 7.1 touchdown percentage this year. The highest in any previous season was 5.2 in 2012. So he scored his touchdown percentage by almost 2%, which is a ridiculous amount. He also almost threw 5,000 yards for the first time in his career. His yardage total is way up. His touchdowns are way up, and his interceptions lower than they've ever been in his career with 7. It's the lowest he's ever thrown. So what you're seeing basically are career high marks, pretty much almost across the board here, and. For me, that's not where I want to buy, right? A guy like this that's been in the year, 31 years old, he's been in the league for a long time, and all of a sudden you're in his he's setting career highs. I think he's going to be overdrafted personally next year.
Yep. You look at all those numbers. This is the season that does not match with all the other ones. So, if you're playing the law of averages, you don't think that this is going to be the season that's going to be replicated. It's probably going to be more similar to all of the previous seasons that were all clumped around to the same type of averages.
Now, having said that, I think he's been underdrafted historically throughout his career because he's always been a fairly solid producer. His interceptions have gone up. He's had some seasons with some higher interception rates. But other than that, I think he's been one of those guys that was always a fringe guy, like this year, for example, where you could have gotten him very late. And I just, but next year he's definitely going to be overdrafted.
Just remember, everybody, right now, 1 year ago today, how you felt about Cam Newton and how you were all ready to draft him in the first round and number 1 quarterback overall, and he finished somewhere down in the middle teens this year for fantasy quarterbacks. So those seasons are never easy to replicate.
Absolutely. All right, guys, anything else on this one before we move on?
Let's move on.
All right, so Saturday night, 8:30, the Patriots saddled up to take on the Texans. I was there. It was great. The crowd was into it. It was it was definitely a good home game for them. Everyone was ready to go.
Would you say it was about a 50-50 split, crowd-wise?
Yeah, a lot of Texans fans there. Fans there.
They travel well.
Yeah, they do travel well.
I tried to hear them over the many Voxer clips that you played for us that all came in completely incoherent.
You didn't get those songs?
Oh, man. There's some classic music they play there.
Yeah.
Classic
It definitely did not come through the way you thought. Like, we weren't getting the vibe. Like, I knew what you were going for, and I was like, he really doesn't get it. We're not getting the vibe. Because you would do it right after a big play would happen. I would be like, I know what Kevin's going for here, but I'm just not getting it.
There was definitely some good music being played, so I thought, I figured I'd help you guys out, get you guys a little pumped for the game, but apparently
I'm thinking there's a good chance you were sitting in a van with your friends playing hip-hop, and you never went to the game.
Yes, we didn't make it into the game. We actually bought that camper because we don't have tickets. We just hang out in the camper, and that's what we do. All right.
Bad idea.
So the Patriots end up winning this game 34-16. As many of you have pointed out to me, they did not look as crisp as they have most of the season. There were definitely some shaky points. Tom Brady throws 2 interceptions, which matches his season total for interceptions. So obviously there was some stuff there, but look, I'll put it this way, and then I'll let you guys talk about the game because I'm irritated by the way people are talking about this game, and I think it's going to come across pretty quickly. Look, Houston's a tough defense in my mind. I think that they played the Patriots very well. This is the second game this season against each other. I think that it's a tough defense to score on. I think it's a tough defense to move the ball on, and I think the Patriots were still pretty successful in doing so. They looked a little shaky at times. They turned the ball over in the red zone, which is a big problem for them. They need to clean that up for their next game. But I think that coming off the bye week, you usually expect them to be a little crisper, so that is one thing that I didn't love. But overall, I mean, when you get a 34-16 win, I don't see how that can be looked at as a bad thing.
Well, I think it goes back to how close this game was in the first half. Kevin, you and I joked on the preview podcast where I said that I think they'll likely be down by 21 at the end of the first quarter, and it started to almost go in that direction for a minute, but then the Texans shut them down and really started to get to Tom Brady. Jadeveon Clowney got to him often, even if it wasn't for a sack. He still put pressure on him or hit him or took him down, and he actually said
he took 8 hits.
Yeah, there was a quote from him today, Jadeveon Clowney, maybe it was yesterday, but from this weekend, that said he felt like he rattled Tom Brady. He could see Tom Brady was rattled, and you don't have to go that far back to look at the 2 Giant Super Bowls. What their plan was to beat him was basically rotate in those D linemen and pressure him, hit him after he throws, just hit him. Brady has shown a tendency to get rattled when that happens. So obviously he settled in, and they Deion Lewis them to death, but they're far and away a superior team to the Texans. But I got to be honest with you, there was a point where it got like, holy crap, are they going to actually stay in this game to the point where they'll have a shot at the end? Like,
sure.
I never thought that they could win the game, but I did think that there's this chance they could be within a score late in the game, and I definitely think that stadium probably the tone changed for a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely did. I mean, people got nervous. There's no question about it. When you're only up by 7, and particularly at halftime they were up by 7. They scored coming out of the half, so that's good. But look, overall, yeah, people were nervous. There's no question about it. But I don't think anyone was ever really thought that the game was in doubt. I mean, I just don't. You didn't get that vibe. You had some points where people were frustrated with the way they were playing and they weren't pulling away like you said, Sal. But I don't think anyone ever got the really down like, oh my God, this is going to go poorly. So,
yeah, I feel the same way. Sorry, Stevie.
Oh, quite all right. I was just going to say, I think it was probably more frustration out of anything because, like you said, the defense was playing so well for Houston, but whenever they, Tom Brady threw an interception or there was a turnover or whatever it was, then the Houston offense came back out onto the field, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. We don't have anything to worry about because their offense can't score the ball.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there was that concern. They did hold it close. It looked very similar to the Denver Broncos game against the Patriots earlier this year, and kind of the similar results. Their defense was enough to get at Tom Brady, to make him rattled, to throw him off his game a little bit, but their offense just did not have enough to keep up with them. Now, Will Fuller, he should be very upset with himself today for dropping that pass,
Absolutely.
That touchdown, right in his breadbaskets. Fedorowicz, fancy hat, he dropped a touchdown. That was a little bit of a tougher catch, but dropped it anyway. And so their offense, they did miss some opportunities, but at the end of the day, Brock Osweiler is not the quarterback that is going to be leading drives. And once things started to go south, it really went that way. I know me and Caveman, even when the game was close, this game was close, but we still feel like that New England's going to win by double digits. And sure enough, they covered that 16-point spread that was so heavily talked about going into it. They end up winning by 18, and I believe that was the biggest spread that's ever been covered. I believe I heard something like that. Nice. I might be wrong. I'm sure someone will point that out. So yeah, it was a close game, but at the end of the day, it's look forward to their next matchup. I don't think they're going to run into the same issues offensively as they did this week.
No, I agree with you. And look, ultimately, the offense still puts up good points. 287 yards and 2 touchdowns for Brady. We talked about the 2 interceptions. Julian Edelman has been on fire lately, and he gets 8 catches for 137 yards. This does get 13 targets in this, so clearly, Brady's locked in. I think, Sal, for you and I, all the guys we kind of mentioned did pretty much what we thought what they were going to do this week. So that works. It makes us look a little smarter because, Dion Lewis and James White both got, obviously Lewis gets the, return touchdown, but also, they got limited looks as far as, in the passing game. Lewis gets a lot of carries on the ground, but they made do with what they got, and they got you some points if you played them in DraftKings.
Oh, I mean, Lewis, he put touchdowns in 3 different ways, right? I mean, yeah. We said, Kevin, I know I mentioned it, that if Blunt isn't fully healthy, and I get the vibe that he wasn't fully recovered from whatever it was that illed him last week, and Lewis got more carries on the ground, which is odd, but they had been using Lewis in that way. So, if you were lucky enough to grab Lewis in the Falafel Playoff Challenge, which I don't know, I'd have to look over and see if anybody actually did that. He's really locked in. He's fully healthy. Clearly, he's fully healthy, and that's a dynamic to the offense because even James White is good. He's not Dion Lewis, so it's another dynamic, that just makes you want to hate the Patriots a little bit more.
Yeah, I think I love the Patriots, so I disagree with you completely. But I do think.
Hey, what a surprise!
Listen, I think you're right, though. I mean, this offense is very difficult to manage, and I think Pittsburgh, who we'll talk about in a little bit, is going to have a hard time because there are so many weapons, and they do spread the ball out so well. Because that's basically the way they play this game. Have you guys anything else to say before we move along?
Just for the Texans. No one really stepped up. No one stepped up. Osweiler looked okay early, 3 interceptions late, and it's just I really would have to see what's going on with that team in the offseason. There is some talk, and this is something I've spoken with people about over the last couple of weeks. Where else is there a place for Romo to go outside of Denver? And the next possible place that I could think of would be Houston, but I can't imagine Jerry Jones letting him play in Texas, right?
Not only that, they can't afford it. How are you going to pay a guy $17 million and then have another guy come in who's getting what, 19?
You basically release Osweiler, you take your losses for whatever the cap hit is, and you move on from
though. That's what I'm saying. Like, you can't do it. You can't afford it.
I don't see it happening, but I'm saying my point is, how do they go forward with Osweiler next year? It's just the offense doesn't run well through him, and I don't think that that's going to change. I don't think that this guy is a starting quarterback in the NFL.
Look, Sal, I agree with you. I don't think there's anywhere for them to go. So I think you got one more year of Osweiler, and they hope that maybe he turns it around a little bit, and then they cut their losses and move on. But I think they're looking at another lost season next year because they have to.
Well, let me ask you a question. How does a coach, with how fragile a career is for a coach, and a job is for a coach in the NFL, how does he allow that? How does Bill O'Brien say, hey, I'm going to allow my career to ride on this guy because they're paying him $17 million?
What's his option?
He loses, what's
his option? He doesn't have to start him. But
they can't go out like he did this year.
But they can't go out and sign someone either. I mean, that's
I don't know that he'll be the quarterback there next year. I'm not saying Romo will be. I don't think Romo would ever go there because I don't think Jerry Jones would allow it to happen in the same state that he plays in. So, but one of the other things I'm hearing today is they don't want to play against Romo next year, and Denver is on the Cowboys' schedule. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in that whole scenario.
It's going to be fun.
We shall see. We shall see. All right, moving along to the what I think was probably the game of the weekend. And
Game of the year.
Game of the year, yeah. I'm pretty sure most of you would agree with me. The Packers go into Dallas to take on the Cowboys. They come away with the win, 34-31, with a last-second field goal by Mason Crosby. This game had just about everything you could possibly want in it. Honestly, I thought that it was in the beginning of this game or early in this game, Green Bay got up to a healthy lead, and I thought it was going to be very difficult for the Cowboys to come back. Obviously, the Cowboys have based the majority of their season on, controlling the clock, running the ball, and typically when teams like that get down, you don't see them come back very well, especially against an offense like the Packers, who seemingly were doing anything they wanted in the beginning of the game, but they did, and they came back, and it made this a great game. Offense all over the board. If you have any of these players in fantasy, I think you're probably pretty happy with the output. So I don't even know where to begin, Steve. What do you take from this game? What's your biggest thought?
First of all, you have to be, if you're a Cowboys fan, as sad as you are with how the season ended, you have to be happy with how the team played, and you have to be ecstatic about the future of the team, knowing that you got this far and looked this impressive with your team being headed by two rookies, So that is first and foremost. Very unfortunate to lose, but you just ran into a buzzsaw in Green Bay right now. They're playing so well. Like you said, Kev, when they got up early, watching Aaron Rodgers throw some of those passes was just amazing. The touchdown pass to Richard Rodgers that went in between Sean Lee's helmet and his arm and just fell right into his arms. Like, obviously he didn't do that on purpose, but watching that was just the throws that he made were just amazing. And then to see Dallas keep their composure, to start stopping Green Bay on offense, which you did not think that could be done, especially after watching them, what they did against the Giants the previous week. They did. They held them. They came back. All their stars got into it. Like you said, Des Bryant had a great game. He was the first Cowboys receiver since Michael Irvin to have 2 touchdowns in a postseason game. So that was it was a fun game all around to watch. And with the fan bases that these two teams have, like we were saying at the top of the show, being in the chat yesterday was just absolutely one of the funnest days that we've had in there because of all the back and forth that was going on. And it was an enjoyable game all around. And looking forward, I know you guys both have Atlanta going to the Super Bowl. I'm still going to be riding this Green Bay bandwagon. And I just don't think that they can be stopped. I think that they have shown there have been times where you think that they're going to go down, and they just don't. They find a way. Aaron Rodgers on that last play to Jared Cook was, all the stories coming out today, how that was just drawn up, how he kind of just told all the receivers what routes to run like they were playing on a playground. And for Jared Cook to catch that ball after dropping a huge pass just a couple plays beforehand, the way that he caught that ball, it was just amazing. And so they're just one of those teams right now that it doesn't look like they're going to be stopped anyway. So I can't wait for this next weekend to watch this Packers-Falcons game. I'm just go Green Bay.
Does it evoke memories of the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan teams of the 90s for you, Steve?
No, not quite
good.
There yet.
Thank God, because NFL.com has said that Aaron Rodgers has become the Michael Jordan of the NFL. Yeah. No, he hasn't.
Man.
No, he has not. NFL.com. No, he has not. Adam Shine. Shut up, sir.
It's embarrassing that they would even put that on there.
Yeah, it's on the front page. I clicked on NFL.com. I saw that. I threw up my mouth a little bit. Then I rinsed and I got on with you guys. But hey, listen, I'm the one guy on this podcast that took the Cowboys, and for a while there, it looks like I was going to get blown out of the building, and then it looked like I might pull it out, and I might be the one smart guy left on the podcast, but I'm clearly not that smart. But this was a phenomenal game to watch. And to be honest with you, I'm more of a Packer follower and a Packer fan, so it wasn't easy for me to pull for the Cowboys in this game. I like Aaron Rodgers. What's not to like about him? But the Cowboys, they did everything they could. And for me, there was a lot of talk about this today. And Kevin and I have brought this guy up before, Mike Francesa. Mike Francesa is on WFAN in New York, and his point of views are fact. Okay, that's that way he perceives everything.
He should not be on the radio anymore.
And so, just so you know, December 15th, 2017 will be his last show.
Thank God.
He's retiring from WFAN. But
although it is radio gold listening to him, I will say that, even though he's a complete and total jackass and has no business. If you want to
absolutely get the funniest stuff ever, Funhouse at Funhouse on Twitter. They absolutely mock him and replay whatever he makes a mistake, and then the next day the mistake is clear. They will replay it. They post it. Have a good time with that. But so you guys may or may not agree with me on this, and my take on this was you're driving to tie the game. I thought it was I said it in the chat when it happened. I did not understand at all why they would spike the ball on that play. He said so. Mike Francesa's take was, "You're not worried about not putting time on the clock for Rodgers. You're looking to win the game." No, I get that, but you got to cover all aspects because this is Aaron Rodgers. You have seen him throw these Hail Marys. It's not just something that's happened once. It's happened multiple times, and the coach has got to be prepared for this. And he came out today and admitted that he was the one who told them to spike the ball. And, they had a chance to redeem themselves on that because on 3rd and 3, you have the best offensive line in the league. You're picking up 5 yards a carry. You have 1 timeout left. Why would you not put the ball on the ground with Ezekiel Elliott? There's a chance you get the first down. You could call the timeout, and then you could take a few shots at the end zone because now you're in field goal range. But instead, you pass the ball, and now it's 4th down, and you got to kick it. The worst thing is you run the ball, you get stopped, you don't get the first down, you're in field goal range, you run the clock all the way down, and you don't give Aaron Rodgers any time. Not to mention that he had 2 timeouts. So to me, this goes on the coach, the coaching staff. That kid did everything he could, Dak Prescott, to win this game. He's not Aaron Rodgers, but in my opinion, watching him go toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers in that game, he was thoroughly impressive. I'm excited to watch him for the rest of his career, even if he does have a star in his helmet. But I blame this on the coaching staff, and Cowboy fans should look no further than that is who they should blame.
So I'll give you the spike. I agree with you on that one. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't necessarily agree with you on the spike, but I do agree with you on the running the ball on the 3rd down there because to me, I thought the same thing. I'm like, why are you not running the ball? You have the best running back in the league. I get it, time's tight, but then you could still they were basically in the same spot either way if they had tried to run it, right? They're still, you have the timeout, so you could still take the timeout, stop the clock. You're still in this, if you don't get the first down, you're still in the same field goal range. If you do get it, like you said, Sal, you stop the clock, you can still make a couple of passes to the outsides or the end zone, whatever you think you can do, and at least get a couple of shots before you have to kick that field goal. Throwing the ball made absolutely no sense to me, and even more so because the fact that it didn't take any time off the clock. So now you are giving Rodgers the ball back with some time on it. So I don't know. The spike, whatever. I don't know that I necessarily disagree with that.
It's losing a down. It's losing a vital down, Kevin, on 1st down.
Yeah, but to me, it could go either way because you are, at that point, I don't think it was. I don't know. I think they still needed to worry about moving the ball down the field a little bit more, and I think they needed to. They didn't know how long it was going to take them, right? I mean, the 3rd down, I get that because you still have the timeout, and it didn't change anything. If you had run the ball, you're still taking the timeout. You're still in the same field position. But when the spike occurred, I don't know. I think you're still planning on marching down the field a little bit more. So
I appreciate that you agree with me on the 3rd down because that one bugs me.
Oh yeah,
far
absolutely.
more. That bugs me far more on that because it just doesn't make sense. You have this massive offensive line, and that was true throughout the game. How many times on 2nd and 1 or 3rd and 1 or 3rd and 2 short yardage did they throw the ball? The interception. Yeah. He just picked up 9 yards on a 1st down, and then you throw the stupid little screen pass that it wasn't even a screen pass. It was a quick little, out pass that was read by Micah Hyde beautifully. I mean, outstanding play.
You have a running back that averaged 5.7 yards per carry, and his longest run was only 22 yards. So it's not like a big long run made that happen. He was getting large chunks of yardage, and you needed 3 yards. I would have run the ball too, Sal, completely.
Poorly coached game.
Yep, you got to stick with where your bread is buttered all season long. I mean, there's a reason that you were the best in clock control all season long. It's because you have a strong run game. And it was even mentioned in Falafel chat. It seemed like Dallas was getting too cute because they knew Green Bay was going to sell out to stop the run. So normally you'd try to take advantage of that with some quick passes and things like that. But people have been trying to sell out to stop this run all season long. You've had a rookie quarterback making his first starts all season, knowing that this has been the best offensive line. People have been trying to stop the run all season long and had not been able to do it. So for them to choose that down to try and get cute and make a pass, I agree with you guys. It should have been a run all the way.
So the real story of this game, though, Aaron Ripkowski rips off a 6.0 yards per carry average here. I mean, come on, guys.
Not getting enough talk.
Free Ripkowski.
Not getting enough talk.
4 carries for 24 yards.
Listen, he did have a nice 20-yard run. I don't know if you saw that.
So technically, he averaged on the other 3 carries.
Shut up, Sal.
I think we all can agree, though, that at the end of this game, the internet was the real winner because all the memes that came out after this game, it was just too fun yesterday reading everything and seeing all that stuff. And, not having a dog in the race, you're okay. You're okay with I'm okay seeing all that stuff. And it was a lot of fun. It brings us a lot of smiles and a lot of joy to this little guy over here.
Yeah. Listen, so Aaron Rodgers does finally throw an interception, but he's got 356 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ty Montgomery, 11 carries, 47 yards, and 2 touchdowns. What do you guys think as far as this offense going forward for next week against Atlanta? We've talked about Atlanta's offense. We've talked about Green Bay. Steve, you seem to think that this offense is unstoppable. They're going to find a way to win at this point. But Atlanta's defense has been playing much better this season. Vic Beasley's been a beast.
Yeah, he has. He's been great. But still, like I said, I just think Green Bay is playing in it. Their offense is on a different level right now. Aaron Rodgers is playing too well. The over-under for this game opened at 61, which is absolutely a ginormous number for a total.
Over.
I might take the over, too.
And, when these teams played earlier this season, I believe the game ended. It was about 35-32 or something like that. So the over did hit earlier if this was, if this were back then. But just to see that number is astonishing to me. And the spread's only Atlanta minus 4.5. So very similar to what the spread was for Dallas over Green Bay last week. And I don't think that Green Bay can be stopped. I know that Atlanta's defense is better than Dallas's, but I don't think it's that much better than Dallas's is. And I don't think that Green Bay is going to be stopped. I don't. Even without Jordy Nelson, all of this was done on Sunday without Jordy Nelson. He's probably not going to be able to play this week, but they're not ruling him out yet. And so like I said, there is a destiny thing, unstoppable right now.
But, we'll get to it, obviously, the Pittsburgh and Kansas City game. But can you remember the last time we had 4 quarterbacks of this magnitude moving on into the Final Four positions? I mean, Matt Ryan has made the leap up this year, but you got Rodgers and Brady and Roethlisberger. And, Kevin, I heard a stat today that was hard to believe, that the Patriots and the Steelers have not faced each other in the playoffs in over 12 years.
Yep, very true.
And it was Roethlisberger's rookie season.
I was going to say 05, was it? It was
his rookie season. And that's crazy because it's seemingly the other thing that came out today that was over the last 13 years, in 12 of those 13 years, either Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, or Roethlisberger have been in the Super Bowl in the AFC. The one other time was Joe Flacco when the Ravens won it. Mm-hmm. And so for those teams to be there virtually every single year and not have crossed paths in the playoffs, it's a strange little stat.
Yeah, I mean it is pretty strange. Just I guess a lot of ups and downs for the Steelers and the Patriots. Really, I mean they've been more up than down, I guess. But definitely a strange stat there, Sal. I like that. Good for you.
Good for you.
All right, so let's get to it. The Pittsburgh Steelers went into Arrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. 18-16 was the final. The Steelers pull this one out. 6 field goals. 6 field goals. Impressive. They pull out the game. It's something that's never been done in a playoff game, I believe. Le'Veon Bell is again the star for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 30 carries, 170 yards. and no touchdowns. Doesn't do a lot in the passing game this time for a change, but he didn't really have to when you get 170 on the ground. So the guy is just a stud. I mean, you can't even talk about it enough how great he is. That patience behind the line, and then just the burst once he finally sees the hole open. It's just amazing. It's something I've never really seen before. It's a different style of running than I think most of the top running backs we've ever seen, in my mind anyway. So it's hard to find someone to compare him to.
Yeah, it's so fun to see. Sorry, Sal, I'm cutting you off, and I'm going to keep going.
Bye, buddy.
I was watching him, we've been talking about it for a while now, all the patience and how good he is. But last night, it really seemed that it almost seemed like he was trying too hard to be that patient runner. I mean, that is what he's known for now, and everyone talks about it. But there looked like a few runs where he's slowed down behind the line and kind of danced around a bit. And if he would have just cut off to the side and just broke outside, he could have gotten a good 6 or 7 yards, but instead he was doing his patient thing, and then he'd kind of cut into the line, still get a pretty decent gain. I mean, he had a great game, but it seemed like last night for me that it was almost getting to be a little bit too much. He was trying to do that type of thing every single time instead of taking the easy yards that, where you could just break off to the outside and run out towards the sideline and pick up a few. So, I mean, I'm not talking down on the guy at all. I love watching him play.
Like you are.
It worried me a little bit.
Really sounds like you're criticizing a guy that just went for 170 yards on the ground.
I think
Steve's point, though, is a valid one, because there was a story out last week where Bell said, I'd like to revolutionize the way the running back position is played. So I could almost see what he was saying. Like, when he does it naturally and it just flows and it's so natural, it did seem like there was that extra. He was just like, okay, I'm just going to pick my spots whenever I want now and go. You can't argue with the 170 yards. You can't argue with what this guy does on a week in and week out basis. But when it flows more naturally, I could definitely see the point that Steve's making.
No, I understand what you're saying. I'm just giving you crap there, Steve. But I do, I will say, I think that's part of what helps make it work, though, in my mind too, is the fact that he does it so regularly that it's so hard to defend, because you don't know when he literally just waits for the hole to develop, and it's not like it's always in the same spot or where it's supposed to be. He's got such great vision when he's back there that he pauses behind the line and just literally will wait until that seam opens, and it could be a gap to the left, it could be a gap to the right. He just as soon as one of his blockers makes a difference, that's when he goes. And it's just so hard to defend. You just don't see him get tackled behind the line very often.
Hey, did you guys not feel this way? Because I know I did. After the first 2 drives when Pittsburgh drove right down, they only ended up with 3. But then the Chiefs went right down and scored a touchdown. And the Chiefs looked impressive on that first drive. I thought we were in for another shootout.
Yep.
And then bogged down City. I mean, the Chiefs didn't score again until did they score that first field goal before the fourth quarter? I don't even. It was either late third or early fourth, and then obviously we know how the game ended. But the Steelers could not penetrate the end zone, and that will not lead to success next week. We know that they. I said penetrate, Steve. I get it. Take it easy. Oh my goodness! I thought I was the childish one.
Yeah.
But yeah, they will not be able to win next week if they do not cross the goal line and score some touchdowns.
So Sal, it's interesting you say that, because I was saying to some friends of mine there earlier, before that game got started, that if the Steelers get out to a lead early or score the first touchdown or whatever, that there was no way that Kansas City would keep up, in my mind, because Kansas City's not great at coming back. Their offense has been better this year, but usually when they're down, it's a struggle for them, particularly the way the Pittsburgh's defense has been playing, in my mind. And that's what I thought, but then, just like you see the field goal, and then you see them score, and I'm like, wow, well, maybe they're just going to go shot for shot here.
Yeah, and it just didn't work. I think that they tried to force Tyreek Hill too much. It wasn't natural. They could have went other places and then come back to him. They didn't run. They gave Spencer Ware 8 carries. That was something that this team got away from.
Yep.
The Chiefs have been built over the years on pounding the rock. They don't have a lights out quarterback in Alex Smith, so I can't understand why he didn't get more carries. If you take out Alex Smith's 2 runs, because those are obviously not planned runs, they had 12 carries total, out of their running backs, which just didn't make sense. They weren't trailing by a big number in this game at any point. Travis Kelce, he ends up with 5 for 77, but he had some big drops, and we all know about the personal foul. I mean, he cleaned that guy's clock, laying him out, and he completely got goaded into it. He's far too emotional of a player. That is something that will need to change if he wants to accelerate to be in the top tight end in this league, because he's got all the talent in the world to do it, but another guy, we've spoken about guys like Odell Beckham Jr. and stuff like that. This guy has got a similar attitude adjustment needed. I thought that the Steelers, on the other hand, worked Jesse James in great. Do you remember that ball that he caught where he was like on one knee and he looked around, he's like, oh my God, there's nobody by me?
Yeah.
And he got up to try to run a little bit more. I mean, he seemed to be open in the middle of the field pretty much at will. So
5 catches for 83 yards. So
if they get Ladarius Green back, I don't know what the story is with him, and they could exploit him, because I think he's obviously a bigger and more athletic target than Jesse James. They could be real dangerous next week going into your stadium, Kev.
What do you guys think about the final, the 2-point conversion that was and then wasn't? The holding call
It was a hold.
that obviously Travis Kelce took a big issue with. I really hated the crying that he did after the game. Is pathetic, honestly. It was sad. So, but I wanted to know what you guys thought of that. I agree. I thought it was a hold as well.
Yeah,
and people were saying, like, oh, you can't call that right there. And it's like, what do you mean? It's a foul. You call it foul.
I always hate that, Steve. When people say, oh, you can't call that in that situation. If you can call a foul anytime it's a foul, no matter what it is. Like,
the referees have a job.
Yeah.
They're doing their job. You play and do your job. We'll do our job. And it was a hold. It was a clear hold. And I think Harrison absolutely gets the Smith if he's not held.
Yeah.
Some people say it based on the angles. No way. He was going right at him, and that completion would have never happened.
No, I completely agree. Yeah, it was a clear hold, and there's nothing you can say about that. In my mind, I'm the exact opposite. I say you have to make that call in that situation because it affected the game. It changed the play.
Because imagine if it wasn't called. And that play held, then everyone would be talking about how there was an obvious hold and it wasn't called. I mean, we're just seeing that in the Green Bay-Dallas game for that final play that Aaron Rodgers made the throw to Jared Cook. People are taking screenshots and zooming in, and I think it was TJ Lang. He's holding David Irving, and this play shouldn't have counted. Blah 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 blah. And it's just like, you know what? Calls are missed. You saw the missed calls on Adams all game long. His jersey being ripped off his shoulder pads and no play being called or no fouls being called. They happen. But when they are caught, they need to be called. And so, I mean, you can't, like you said, Kev, you can't be like, you can't call it there when it's the most important time of the game where everything should be called.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, there's, and refs are paid to do it, but that you got to have a sense, not just a sense of the foul, but to me, it's more about whether or not it affects the play, right? So, I mean, I don't think you should be calling a holding on a defensive back nowhere near anything that affected the play or something along those lines. And it's a bad example, but whatever. I think if it doesn't affect the play of the game, maybe then the whole you shouldn't call that in that situation argument comes in. But in this situation, that was a clear game changer, that hold. So I think you have to call it. So to Sal's point, I think there's no question he was getting there.
Call the fouls. Like I heard people complaining about the one in the Cowboy game with Bryce Butler. It's in the rules. Hey, listen, just because we didn't know it existed doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So we got educated this week.
Sal. It's interesting you say that. I seem to remember one other rule that no one knew existed that affected a big game.
Well, why don't you go screw yourself? I was going to say something something that would have to be bleeped, but I decided to give Steve the night off.
I appreciate that.
You know what you can do, buddy.
Just like to hear you say that.
But listen, not a bad point. The rule existed. It was that one. Even as a Patriots fan, I know you'll admit it. Maybe not on air because your little buddies.
No, I'll admit it on air.
Hello, New England friends.
I'll admit it on air 100 times. I've never said anything different. It is a very dumb rule, and that was a fumble. But according to the rule book, it was called the right way.
Did I ever tell you that I was shutting the TV off?
Really?
Yeah, I had worked. I had done snow removal that day. It was a long day. You remember that game started? That was like 6:30 in the evening start. So it was late at night, and I was. I had young kids at the time. It was a long day. And as he sacked him, they recovered the fumble. I think Romanowski punted it into the crowd. I was walking over to the TV to shut it off, and they're like, "Well, this play is going to be reviewed." And I'm like, "Well, what could be reviewed? I mean, it was clearly a fumble." And within a few minutes, Vinatieri's kicking field goals. He's kicking more field goals in overtime. Yeah. Why'd you bring it up?
Sorry, Steve. Sorry, Sal. I didn't mean to do that to you. All right, so that's it for the games. We've gone through them all. We will be back later this week to tell you about what's going to come up on these 2 games that we'll have going on next on Sunday. Obviously, the Steelers will travel to New England. That'll be the late game at 6:30, and Green Bay will be in Atlanta for the early game. I think that one kicks off around 3 or 3:30, somewhere in that form.
3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Hey, Kev, don't lock into anything. You never know what I might get offered to do this week. We might have to switch things up.
Yeah, that's why I didn't give a day. I just said later this week we'll be back.
Might be tickets to the old. I think the roller derby's coming to town.
Yeah.
I might have to.
The way you and Steve have been this lately, I can't trust either of you to commit to a certain day. So that'll wrap us up for tonight. Though, Steve, why don't you get to some final thoughts?
All right, thank you everybody for sticking around during the playoffs to this Falafel House Fantasy Football Podcast.
Playoffs?
That's pretty good.
That was pretty good, actually.
Solid.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
That was very good. You had a good decibel level there. You can follow us on Twitter at Falafel House. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Just search for Falafel House there. And you can check out our website, falafelhouse.com. And real quick, shout out to Darth Paikai for winning our DraftKings. Yes. Darth Paikai, our DraftKings, even though he's been, just taking shots at me left and right lately. So you know what, Darth Peachy, good job winning your DraftKings lineup this week. You're not going to do it next week because I'm going to redeem myself.
Who came in second?
I don't know. It was hard to see the top of the standings from the bottom, which is where I was residing.
Yes, that's true.
That was a little rough. So yeah, Falafel House. Search for it on the internet. You'll find some fun stuff.
For me, I'll just remind you again to get in the Falafel chat. We announced our new schedule, which people are like, what? It's a chat, but we like to keep things exciting in the off season. So we kicked off with theme Wednesdays again last week, and we had our Friday night drafts. And this particular Friday night, we had the all-time draft of a player from each one of the 4 major sports, which was a debatable, and one flex. It went over really, really well. The chat was humming. And going forward, we're going to be having our meme battles again on Monday nights. We're going to be having trivia nights on Thursday. If you're lonely and you need a place to go, we're always open. The lights on. Come on in and play along. And other than that, reach out to us on Twitter. Reach out to us on the Fantasy Life app. Let us know some of the things you'd like to hear us discuss and maybe some topics we could get into in the off season. Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Sal, because that was exactly what I was going to point out. So you took 2 things, and one of them was mine. I was going to remind everyone to reach out to us because obviously the off-season's coming, which for us means we have to come up with creative ways to entertain you, and that's always easier to do when people tell us what to do. So,
I could browbeat Kevin if that's fun.
Well, I don't know that that's going to happen, but we could both browbeat Steve. That would be fun.
I'll take it.
Yeah. All right. So we'll plan on doing that unless some of you reach out to us on any of our social media platforms and tell us what else to do. So unless you want Steve verbally abused, you should do that. And until next time, Steve, hit the button.